Welcome into Philadelphia 76ers now. I'm Chase Sr. No matter where you are, how you're tuned in, we appreciate all of you for making today's show a part of your day. What I want to do is just give you a James Harden update. I cover the NFL here at Chat Sports. There's a lot going on that front with all teams trimming their rosters down to 53 players. We just wrapped up the preseason, regular season coming up around the corner, and it's just a dull time on the NBA calendar. But got to give you the latest on James Harden. That's what we're going to do, and show some love to the channel by hitting that subscribe button. We're really growing quickly here on 76ers now, approaching 12,000 subs. And if you're looking for year-round Sixers coverage, lock us in by hitting that sub button right now. As for the latest on James Harden, Howard Beck, longtime NBA insider with this report on Harden, and he put feelers out there, and he talked to a couple of sources across the NBA, and he said on the Clap Your Hands podcast with Elliot Shore-Parks, it's a podcast under the 94 WIP umbrella, that 3 to 4 teams are said to be interested in James Harden. Last week, we talked about how the NBA was going to find Harden. Sixers still looking for a trade partner, of course, but we know that Daryl Morey is not going to move a really good asset for cents on the dollar. So what could those teams be? Here's what Beck had to say about the Harden situation in the city of brotherly love. You have to rule out a bunch of teams, he began with. There are a bunch of lottery teams that have no use for a 34-year-old James Harden. There are rebuilding teams and mid-level teams where he's just not going to push them forward enough. There are teams that just don't need another ball-dominant guard. So that's the portion of the quote of Howard Beck saying that there are many teams across the NBA for a variety of reasons, right? Harden's age, declining play, price tag, and overall need that aren't going to hit up the phone lines for the Philadelphia 76ers at the facility in Camden, New Jersey, and call Daryl Morey to inquire about the former MVP and multi-time All-Star. But Howard Beck did say these teams could be and might be and frankly are interested in a James Harden trade. These are the potential Harden suitors here, according to Howard Beck. Now, the big surprise on this list is his former club in the Brooklyn Nets, who actually traded Harden away to Philadelphia. But if Harden is going to remain steadfast that he's not going to return to the Sixers, that his relationship with Daryl Morey is severed, and he's not going to play this year in a contract year, trying to earn more money in the future and prove that he could still play at a pretty high level in this league, he has to go somewhere, right, in order to increase that value in play, because his value is not going to be on the uptick if he doesn't take the floor. So Brooklyn Nets, a surprise team that could be interested in James Harden. You have his number one destination in the Los Angeles Clippers. And I saw a report the other day that Harden has been in contact with Paul George as well as Kawhi Leonard. They're seeing eye to eye with what Harden would be able to bring that team stylistically and with his fit. Miami Heat are an interesting team, and I could see Miami coming to the forefront here because they need another scorer. They need somebody to really help out Jimmy Butler. And if they don't land Damian Lillard in that trade, which seemed inevitable back several weeks ago, a couple of months ago, could James Harden be their backup plan? Because those are the two marquee players who are said to be available in a trade. And you think about Harden going to Miami, I know that he has antics, and I know that Harden is really frustrating to watch sometimes. He's difficult to root for because he never takes accountability when things go awry, bad body language, but it's the Heat culture. And they're not going to accept lackadaisical effort. They're not going to accept players not being in shape. I could see Harden going to Miami, fitting in well, little two-man game between him and Bam Adebayo, takes a little bit of the pressure off of Jimmy Butler, and he could play some good hoop there. And then the Chicago Bulls. This is a team that we were talking about during the peak of NBA free agency as maybe a destination for Harden, maybe a destination for Tobias Harris. If Philadelphia can somehow swing a Harden for Levine trade, you give the keys to this offense to Tyrese Maxey. He's your primary ball handler and distributor. He would have to grow in that role of being a passer because it's not necessarily his strong suit, but I'd be excited about his role going into the future, being that primary guy to kind of initiate and set up the offense. You have him at year one. You find a way for Zach LaVine to be your scoring two-guard / wing. If you have to hold on to Tobias Harris, you find a way to make it fit, and you get rid of that James Harden salary. I think you get a better player who fits better in a Zach LaVine. If Daryl Morey can swing that, then I will give him credit, and I will take back a lot of the negative things that I've said about Daryl Morey, because he's part of the reason why this organization is in a precarious spot. Keep in mind that when you look at those teams that we just broke down, and keep in mind that when Daryl Morey is fielding calls and making calls on James Harden, with the regular season really coming here in just a couple of months at the end of October, that he's going to milk this out until he gets the absolute best deal back for James Harden. He is not going to just give him away for a bag of basketballs, because Harden last year, more than 20 points per game, led the NBA in assists, career best assist-to-turnover ratio, and while his finishing ability at the rim, when we've looked at the analytics, they've gone down. His explosive blow-by rate isn't what it was. He could still score 20, 25 points per night, dish out 10, 11 dimes, rebound the basketball, and is a very good playmaker and creator. Not a great defensive player, never has been, but he could still really, really help your basketball team, and Daryl Morey knows that from a basketball standpoint. So he wants players who can help out Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey this year. Now, as for what Harden's teammates think about him in the situation right now, we already know that Joel Embiid has tried to put his best foot forward. He's reached out to Harden multiple times this offseason, according to reports, asking him to return. Because Joel Embiid is a smart man. He understands that after Nikola Jokic won that NBA championship, and after Joel Embiid won MVP, then had another second-round exit, the Joker is the number one big in the NBA with all the triple-doubles that he dropped and him winning a championship. So Joel Embiid knows that. He knows that James Harden makes this team better going into 2023, 2024. He also knows that the pressure, as far as his legacy, is on the line here. If he continues to go out in the second round and have these playoff flameouts, gets injured, and plays like he did Game 7 against Boston, in which he didn't put forward an effort, and frankly, it was kind of disgusting, honestly, to see Joel Embiid just kind of give up in that game, and he's compared to some of his peers who have made deep runs in the playoffs, who have won NBA championships, both in the current and past, as far as those players at the NBA level. People are going to continue to talk about Joel Embiid as a choke artist and a guy who comes up short in the biggest of moments. So he wants Harden back because he knows that that two-man game between those two is really, really good, and Harden makes this team better. But Harden remains pretty adamant that he doesn't want to come back to Philadelphia. And there's no doubt that that's caused a little bit of friction and a little bit of awkwardness between Harden and his teammates, because I'm sure people like Harden, everywhere he goes, players do say, like, we get down with James Harden. It's just weird how he wears out his welcome, and he's now demanded a trade from a third team in just as many stops. Now, here's what Tyrese Maxey had to say about Harden as I segue into this. It's crazy to say this, but it's not our first rodeo, honestly. That's funny to say, but that's life. James is his own individual, and he's able to do whatever he pleases. I'm preparing right now to play with him or without him, and I love James. If James decided he's going to come back and play for us, there's nobody in this organization that would be upset about that. That's what Tyrese Maxey had to say on his podcast. And I think when he's saying this isn't our first rodeo, he's been a member of this organization for the last couple of years. Tyrese Maxey knows that drama follows this team really everywhere and every single offseason, from Ben Simmons to now James Harden to Doc, a.k.a. Glenn Rivers, getting fired, to all of the dysfunction that has taken place. It is not the Philadelphia 76ers' first rodeo. Side note with Tyrese Maxey, though, I've seen a couple of clips of him working out this offseason. He's in the lab. He's improving. It wouldn't surprise me if Maxey is an all-star this year, been working out with Drew Hanlon, and he looks really, really good. He's adding kind of a dribble game to his arsenal, couple of different moves to his pocket in which Tyrese Maxey is able to create a jump shot for himself, just becoming a more efficient all-around player and adding to his bag that in his first 3 years in the NBA. He's been able to grow on it every single season and get better and better and better. And I'm so excited for Tyrese Maxey's future development as a Philadelphia 76er. Before we hop on out of here, make sure you hit that thumbs up icon and like the video if you love the Sixers. Also, please make sure you subscribe. Going to try to give you as much content as possible. Whenever there's something juicy out there, you can count on me to give you a video like this in podcast style form right here on 76ers Now. Things slowing down a little bit, obviously, on the NBA calendar, but as soon as they pick up, you know what we do. This is the standard for Sixers Talk here on YouTube. Appreciate all of you for watching. Hit that subscribe button to support the channel and keep an eye peeled for more Sixers coverage right here on the docket.